All right, so we're diving into something pretty cool today. We've got this excerpt on drawing, right? And it's not just about like techniques and stuff, that we'll get into some of that. It's about this whole idea of talent versus practice, which I'm sure we've all thought about at some point in our lives.
Yeah, absolutely. This debate comes up all the time, no matter what skill you're trying to master,
Yeah.
right? Like, are you born with it or can you actually learn it?
Exactly. Getting into the excerpt itself, it seems like it's part of a bigger conversation about art and skill development, which is already a fascinating topic. But then it takes this unexpected turn and starts talking about jazz.
It's a brilliant comparison, actually. The source talks about how drawing from life, it's kind of like jazz improvisation.
Oh, okay. How so? Because when I think of jazz, I think of like pure creativity, just riffing on the spot, you know?
Exactly. And the source is saying that drawing, when you're really in the moment, capturing what you see, it has that same kind of immediacy, that responsiveness. You're not just copying, you're reacting and interpreting.
But you can't just walk up and play amazing jazz without like years of practice,
Yeah.
right? You need to know the scales, the chords.
Precisely. That's exactly the point the source is making. We often see these incredible artists or musicians, and we talk about their talent like it's some magical gift.
Right, but it's not magic, is it? It's dedication. It's practice, practice, practice.
Exactly. And the source really emphasizes that both improvisation, talent, are often totally misunderstood. It's not about random inspiration. It's about having this deep well of knowledge and skill to draw from, literally.
Okay, so let's bring this back to drawing. If those jazz scales and chords are the building blocks for music, what are they for an artist? What are those essential skills you need to master?
Well, the source specifically lists understanding basic forms, perspective, anatomy, that's a big one, and color theory.
And these are all things you can learn, right? It's not like you're born knowing how to draw perfect perspective. It's about training your eye, understanding the rules, and then eventually you can break them, right?
Exactly. Just like a jazz musician needs to know their chords inside and out before they can start improvising, an artist needs that strong foundation in those fundamental skills. That's what allows for true creativity and spontaneity.
Makes sense. You know, it's funny, the source almost seems to make fun of people who use talent as an excuse. Like, oh, I could never be an artist. I just don't have the talent.
Right. And it makes you wonder, how often do we limit ourselves by hiding behind that word talent, as if it's some kind of fixed trait?
It's easier than admitting we just haven't put in the work, right? But the source doesn't just critique the idea of talent, it actually offers a different perspective on it, right?
Yes. It suggests that maybe talent is really about that inner drive, the passion that fuels our practice. It's like the source says, maybe it's the DNA that makes us want to keep learning and growing, even when it's hard.
Okay, that's interesting. So instead of thinking of talent as something you either have or you don't, it's more about what you're drawn to, what you're willing to put the time and effort into. And maybe that's what separates those who excel from those who just dabble.
Exactly. What is it that you just can't get enough of? What makes you want to keep practicing, even when you mess up and hit a wall? Maybe that's the real talent.
It's a good question to ask yourself for sure. It makes you think about all the things we might be capable of if we could just tap into that inner drive. Now, this is just scratching the surface of this excerpt. There's so much more we could unpack. Like, the source goes really deep into the difference between effective and ineffective practice, which honestly could be a whole other deep dive.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But for now, I think this gives everyone a lot to think about.
Totally. Maybe even inspires you to pick up a pencil and just start sketching, you know? See where your own talent takes you.
You never know what you might discover.
That's all the time we have for today's deep dive, but thanks for joining us.
Until next time.